Okay, this is a straightforward video to prove in a simple way for friends or whoever you're around that we live on a solid foundation under the firmament, and Nasha means deception in Hebrew, is a heaping bed of lies that can be disproved in infinite ways. But we'll go with, I believe there's 9 here. So Werner von Braun created NASA. This is his tombstone. I've referenced this before. Why would somebody involved with space care at all about some stupid book like the Bible? Because it's not a stupid book in many ways. It's got problems, as I've referenced with, in my opinion, Jacob and Paul and so forth. But yeah, they've added things in. They put bad stuff in the Bible, of course, and um, in essence, it makes no sense for someone akin to Galileo, who went away from the church and is going to the cosmos and space and so forth, to say the heavens declare the glory of God and the firmament showeth his handiwork. And as many of you know who have grown up in public schools or around this world like me, the firmament was a word that was not used at all. And you may hear it now and again, and obviously it's in your Bible many times. Um, but if you've grown up in a secular environment, then that word has largely been hidden. But it explains so much about how our world works. So then another blatant symbolism of NASA. Sure, it's that same square and compass thing that they have everywhere on the Masonic G and so forth. Um, and then sure, that compass right there is at 47 degrees, which is the 47 of all the government relations. So if you type in Republican, Democrat, etc., anything related to most things related to government, they come out as 47. It's ridiculous how many things are 47 related to government, and 47 is an 11. But yeah, I think that the essence of it is that also, yes, this NASA symbol is supposed to be a serpent's tongue. It's these evil people that have put this here to delude people and keep them in suspension of disbelief, crazy land, where meteors or asteroids can strike at any moment. And I actually do believe in pieces of the firmament falling off, and they simply call that a meteor or an asteroid, when it is more of like a hot crystalline bit that may, I guess, supposedly a rock, supposedly I guess a rocket could take that down. But I think during different phases they naturally come down. And then a really interesting theory I've heard, um, I'll credit this with RFTK Ohio, but I think he got it from somebody else, is the idea that the Milky Way is the scar from when the flood happened. I love that idea. I believe that this great collection of stars was used to seal up the wound that was opened when the Nephilim got too great, or there was the God felt the need to flood the earth because people were behaving so poorly. So yep, that's a pretty straightforward one. The people that are part of NASA and are the astronauts, not N-O-T, are Satan's children. And they worship the pyramid and they worship lies. And it's really weird. But they're a bunch of Freemartin tea drinkers, and they revel in their duping delight in their lies. And all these people that are involved have large hips but claim to be men, and they don't tell you that. They're not like, oh hey, we're Freemartins, no big deal. Nope. They go in the little club, buddy, hiding things and throwing gang signs. And look at the duping delight. You can just look at that face. It's ridiculous. But hips don't lie. They lie to you about what they are. The Dr. Seuss, there's no place like space. And that's the real essence of it. It's okay, yeah, you want to take it the suspension of disbelief route. Oh yeah, there's no place you can't, like Chicago or whatever. There's I've only briefly been to Chicago, but Hawaii or whatever. Any place nothing's like the void of space. And I talked about this before. How things like Dragon Ball Z, I've always hated that show. but a lot of it has to do with space, and so many shows are like this where it's just empty void, and you have no oxygen, and it's just a caustic environment, and people would never want to experience that. It reminds me of people that supposedly live up high on skyscrapers when no, people want to be close to the ground. They don't want to be way up high. It's there's no place like space because it doesn't exist. And day moon, which is far more prevalent nowadays, it completely bucks their whole their whole system, because the moon is supposed to be on the other side of the quote unquote planet, as I've written here. But day moon proves it's that NASA makes stuff up. It's this obvious piece of evidence that their system is not what they say it is. That the moon and sun, they move on cycles that are very consistent, so consistent that we can build architecture where the sunlight will line up and go through a hole on a certain day every year. And it's amazing that we have this foundation, and we've been lied to about it, and people have been scatterbrained or confused or have felt what I felt a lot of the time was being surrounded by people that are heavily technical, but in reality they're just spewing off nonsense. And you're not a complete ignoramus idiot. No, that's what they want you to think. No, they're just liars, and they want you to think that they have all the answers, but they don't. And some of the simple answers that we do have are that we do live under a firmament, which is reference of the rainbow. The rainbow is a reflection of the dome that's above us. And that's pretty obvious because of how rainbows act with glass. And the firmament is a glass-like translucent structure. And when we have rain and then sun comes through afterwards, it reflects off the firmament. And it's amazing. And that would never make sense on the vacuum of space or the Van Allen belts and all the nonsense that they say. Rainbows are such a fantastic proof of our beautiful Earth at center under the firmament. Hast thou, Job 37:18, hast thou with him spread out the sky, which is strong and as a molten looking glass? See, looking glass, a molten looking glass. It is optical, and the sun and moon are optical. They're not physical. The sun being played off as a giant fireball is the most nonsensical thing. It's never appeared like that. It's intense, it's very bright, it's warming, but it's like a light bulb. It's not a fireball in the sense that it's a light. It's not emitting all these flares and all this. You just don't see that. I've never seen that my whole life. The only reason I ever believed that was because of the indoctrination of public school. And then the moon is something that's underappreciated. Obviously, we have our podcast. Snow Global and I haven't been talking, to be fair. I'd love to get back into contact with him, but it is what it is. We are on a great journey in life, and I hope to see him further along the road. But yeah, the moon leaves its own putrefying light, but putrefying has this kind of negative connotation of like killing and so forth. No, it's a necessary contrast to the sun. And it's equally important, and the moon has been absolutely demonized by the popular science crapola. Media doesn't seem to demonize the moon in the way that popular science does. As a, what do they say it is? A chunk of the Earth that fell off in the formation after the Big Bang, and then it began to orbit and form into a ball after the chunk fell off, because gravity formed it into a ball. Gravity forms everything into balls because they worship the demon and so forth, Baal or whatever. Yeah, it's nonsense. And then this is from Eric Dubé, his book 200 Proofs That Earth is Not a Spinning Ball. So surveyors, engineers, and architects are never required to factor the supposed curvature of the Earth into their projects. Canals, railways, bridges, and tunnels, for example, are always I can't really read this thing. Are always cut and laid horizontally, often over hundreds of miles without any allowance for curvature. Yes, curvature has never made any sense. Look out at a great vista, or you look out at the sea. Sea is such a good one, and it's just flat. And it's beautiful. And you pour your water in your glass, and what does it do? It finds its level. It always finds its level. Water always finds its level. So the natural physics of water is to find and maintain its level. If Earth was a giant sphere tilted, wobbling, and hurtling through infinite space, then truly flat, consistent level surfaces would not exist here. It's so true. You would have some curvature to everywhere you went. You'd always be going uphill or downhill. You would never be going straight across. And that's just not true. There are places like Kansas, one of the flattest places ever. There's just not a lot of mountains. There's not a lot of not mountains. There's not a lot of hills. It's completely flat, and that can't exist. You cannot. Kansas is such a good example of how the globe idea just falls apart. If you live in a place with like valleys and hills and so forth, they can get that across for you. But if you've grown up in Kansas, it just is. It should seem pretty obvious that there's a complete farcical lie. It's fundamental physical property of fluids finding remaining levels consistent with experience and common sense. It is. This is the essence of it. What you can do in the microcosm exists in the macrocosm, and you need to apply that. When I found out for certain, I really felt it, that I was not in what they were telling me. The Bible was true on this critical aspect of our reality, among other older religions. I mean, most everybody. This globe thing is really new in a sense, or maybe there is resets and they've been pulling this kind of charade for a while, but it's so lame, and it doesn't have any depth to it, and they just make up stuff about aliens and all of the fantastical elements. But our Earth is amazing in and of itself, and anybody that focuses for a long time on space is not in God's rhythm, I believe, because you're not appreciating what's genuine and right in front of you. You're looking at some sci-fi nonsense that is derived by Satanists to make you feel off, make you feel like you can't ever have a foundation and never really create well. And then you look around you and you realize that tons of people know this is the truth, and they just keep the lie because they think it's funny, or they know that the Earth's going to back. They know that the society is going to back them up because we're ruled over by petulant kids, really, goat's term, because they're liars, they're of their father, and Satan and so forth. But these are really simple proofs. Anybody can tell you, anybody can talk to you about, anybody can show you plainly that this is the case. Another good one is if you look at flight paths, that they make no sense on the globe. They only make sense on flat Earth, or with biblical cosmology. Flat Earth, I think, is kind of a misnomer. It's a simple way to say it, but obviously we have many peaks and valleys, mountains, and so forth, and saying the Earth is flat. It is, but it's like, it feels like it's kind of like a simplistic way to phrase it. There's more to it. And then, it's amazing to live under a firmament. I much prefer this reality to what we were told about this vacuous space nonsense. And I've always loathed things like Star Wars because of how mechanical it is and devoid of nature. So, these are all very practical truths that show you where we live and should give you a sigh of relief that you're not living in crazy spaceball land. So, take care and live in truth.